Well, why don't men go to church? This one's probably going to get me in some trouble. I shared a stat at church that the typical church is made up of 70% women, and mentioned there that Praxis is bucking that trend and that we have 60% of our congregation made up of men. And that resulted in a few people asking me, why is it men don't go to church? I think there's a couple key things that have led to the male exodus from the church. The first is this, the feminization of Christian worship. Many churches, they've moved away from singing theologically grounded songs to instead singing songs about our feelings. And it can sometimes be hard to tell if we're singing a Taylor Swift love song or some modern Christian worship song. And generally speaking, just men are uncomfortable singing songs about their emotions, especially in a room full of other people. Second thing, though, I think that's leading to this is the feminization of Christian leadership. In the last 100 years, the church has become significantly more feminized. And as the average man shows up to church, what he sees epitomized as the ideal man is a very different type of man than he encounters throughout his week. Men tend to want to follow men. And even if a church hasn't swallowed the cultural Kool-Aid and begun demonizing masculinity altogether, unfortunately, church leadership hasn't done a great job of raising up masculine men. Third thing leading to this, I think, is the feminization of the Christian message. Throughout the scriptures, Jesus is presented as both a lion and a lamb. But today, there's a tendency towards preaching gentle lamb Jesus and often forgetting that Jesus is also called the Lion of Judah. Revelation describes him as coming back riding a horse, wielding a sword while covered in blood that's not his own. So yes, Jesus is the Lamb of God, but he's also the Lion of God and a man. It's not hard to imagine why it's difficult for a man who works all week swinging a hammer to then show up on Sunday and sit in a room 70% full of women, listen to a soft-spoken man talk about his feelings on a stage covered in flowers and doilies. Church is a foreign environment for most men, and unfortunately it seems that the church is designed to repel men today. So what is it Praxis is doing, or why is it that Praxis has so many men? It's another question I've had. One, we're just strategically trying to reach men. In the West, men are almost an unreached people group, and we believe Christ was a man who came and called men to be his disciples. The church isn't just meant for women and children, it's meant for men as well. We're not trying to masculinize Christianity, we're just trying to take off some of the girly packaging that's been wrapped around the Christian faith this last, 30, 40 years. We do this by curating worship songs to be theologically rich hymns that appeal not only to the heart, but the mind as well. They're not teenage love songs about emotions. They're truths about who God is that we're singing back to him. Our worship is louder on purpose, so men will feel comfortable singing along, not worried about other men hearing how out of tune they are. We preach to the mind, engaging logic and thought, not the typical appeals to emotion that men are used to hearing in church, because we're strategically trying to reach men. These are a few of the reasons I think men don't go to church, but I'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment about why you think men don't go to church. And if you'd like more information on Praxis, check out praxischurch.ca or come join us one Sunday, 9 and 11 at the Rotary Centre, downtown Kelowna.